Welcome back, everyone. Among the many trade targets we've heard about the Lakers being linked to, Zach Lavine and Jerami Grant would have to be two of the most frequently mentioned. And with both of them currently being on the trade block, it's really not that shocking that they're once again being mentioned to them. And not only that, but we apparently know the price they're being listed at, which is completely different between the two of them, and significantly different than they were viewed only a year ago, with that being especially true for Lavine. And whether or not you're a fan of them, there is an argument to be made to trade for them. After all, they're both efficient three-point shooting, talented scoring threats that can play off the ball, and that right there is the kind of player you want around LeBron and Anthony Davis on offense. And with that being said, would it be worth to go after them? And what are the latest reports saying about what it would cost to get them? We'll talk about exactly that during today's video. But before we get too far into it, I would genuinely appreciate it if you could take a brief moment to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But without further ado, let's dive right into it, and we'll begin by talking about Jerami Grant, who, unlike Zach Lavine, currently has a price that is trending upward, not downward, or maybe that is what the Portland Trail Blazers want them to think. And according to Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report, Portland wants not only one, but two first-round draft picks from the Lakers for Jerami Grant, and well, that would obviously be quite the price. I mean, we are talking about a pretty good player here, but would it really be worth it? The now 30-year-old Jerami Grant is coming off of averaging 21 points per game on 40% three-point shooting. Pretty darn good. However, there are plenty of red flags here too, one of which being his current contract. The guy signed a 5-year, $160 million contract with Portland last summer. And although it already looks a bit better with the salary cap going up, I'm still not sure that he'll be worth it. Again, Grant is now 30 years old, and by the time that contract comes to an end, he will be 34, which will more than likely bring some decline with him, as he already appears to be declining on defense. Now, you can argue over whether or not that is from a lack of commitment rather than actual decline, but the point here is that I really doubt he'll be the same player at that point, and especially if we're talking about defense. Not only that though, but he has never done anything remotely close to what he did last season for a good team. The entirety of the big numbers that he has put up have come with pretty bad teams. In fact, Jerami Grant has not played for an above 500 team since the NBA bubble. Yeah, it's been a while. And with that being said, there are plenty of questions about him being worth that price tag. Now, I for one think that Portland is bluffing here, and would probably take one first-round draft pick if it really came down to it. But again, I would definitely not trade away two of them for Jerami Grant alone. At that point, you can point to any one of his contract, declining defense, or lack of winning lately to talk yourself out of it. It really would not take that much in my opinion. But if Portland would lower their price a little bit, then yeah, I would have a level of interest. Though even then he would not be my top trade target. If you ask me, they would be much better off going with a younger trade target on a more team-friendly contract, much like Cam Johnson, Wendell Carter Jr., or even former Laker Kyle Kuzma, all of which have a lesser contract and would give them roughly the same amount of production that Jerami Grant would give them. As again, do not expect the numbers they put up in Portland to remain the same on a winning team. In my opinion, you would be lucky to get around 18 points per game from him on a true contender. At that point, he would probably be a third or fourth option, which, don't get me wrong, would not be a bad thing, but you gotta realize what you'd be trading for here. I mean, it's really not that difficult. Many fans have wondered how guys like Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, or even Lonzo Ball went on to put up big numbers after leaving their team. And simply put, they were given a bigger role in a rebuilding team. Now, did that contribute to winning? No, it did not, but it did lead to them putting up bigger numbers. And well, the same thing applied to Jerami Grant. He put up only 12 points per game during the last time he played with a winning team back in 2020, with that being the Denver Nuggets. But then after going to a rebuilding Detroit team, he immediately jumped to over 22 points per game, nearly double the amount. And I think we'll end on that with Jerami Grant. Again, great player, and probably would be a pretty good fit for their team, but a lot to keep in mind when trading for him, and especially when talking about his real value, not the fake value that hides behind his kind of fake numbers. Moving on here though, how about Zach Lavine? And well, according to reports, there is literally no trade market for him right now at all. Kind of wild to think about for a 29-year-old former All-Star, and yet, here we are. Unlike Jerami Grant, his value has been trending downward for quite some time now. It was already pretty bad around the beginning of last summer, but then took a nosedive after he got hurt again last season, appearing in only 25 games for them, which was not even the lowest mark of his career, believe it or not. But again, his trade value is pretty much cooked. Chicago will now be looking at giving up an asset to get rid of him, rather than getting one in return for him. And that right there is the epitome of bad trade asset management. I mean, I think we can all agree they should have blown their team up last summer. And now they're left with Zach Lavine having literally no trade value, DeMar DeRozan leaving their team for pretty much nothing, along with Nikola Vucevic having little to no trade value as well. And with that in mind, should the Lakers look to take advantage of their current situation? Now, that will obviously depend on who you ask, but it would take quite a bit of persuasion to make me trade for Zach Lavine. Simply put, it's incredibly difficult to win with 3 gigantic contracts on your payroll, and especially after the new CBA kicked in, which the Lakers have already been feeling the effects of too, with them currently being only $45K below the dreaded second apron, to which I've been referring to as salary cap hell, and for good reason too. So again, it would take a lot for me to trade for Zach Lavine, and I say the word take on purpose here too, as in my opinion, Chicago would not only have to give him to me for basically nothing, but then attach an asset with him. But hey, I guess at that point I would be willing to listen. Now, would they really be willing to give up a first round draft pick to simply get rid of him? I'm not sure they're at that point quite yet, and in my opinion, they would be better off trying to rebuild his value than doing that. But that is neither here nor there, they can do whatever the heck they want. If they really would be willing to do that though, then I probably would be willing to work with them. But keep in mind that simply matching his salary alone would be difficult, as we're working with a $43 million one. And that right there would mean giving up all 3 of D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, and Gabe Vincent to simply make the money work. And with Gabe Vincent being viewed as the only bad contract here, I would want quite a bit more in return here than only Zach Lavine. At that point, I would demand a lightly protected first round draft pick, although trying to get one of Ayo Dosunmu or Javon Carter. That way they would not be so thin at point guard after giving up both D'Lo and Gabe Vincent. The only problem here is that Lavine makes so much money that we would have to throw in not only Cam Reddish, but also Christian Wood to simply fit Dosunmu in there, and that really tells you about how big of a contract Lavine has. But again, at that point I would be willing to listen. I kind of doubt they would be willing to throw in Dosunmu, but they definitely would be willing to throw in Carter, and I think he would be a pretty good fit for their team too, being a 38.3% career 3-point shooter and a solid point of attack defender. Although even then I would be a bit hesitant, because at the end of the day, I simply don't want that contract on my payroll, and especially with how difficult the new CBA has proven to already be. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the current value of Zach Lavine and Jerami Grant? And what will it take for you to be willing to trade for one of them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That will do it for this video though. Big thank you to those of you who took the time to watch until the end of this video, and until the end of all of my videos in general. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.